This man believes he is a superhero and is determined to rid the city of crime and its criminals. He is such a superhero who hasn't any superpowers but uses lime juice and marbles as his weapons against offenders. His name is Arthur Poppington, but he calls himself Defender, and he's targeting a local mob leader known as Industry Captain, whom he blames for all the crimes, kidnappings, and other illicit activities in the area. In the opening scene, Arthur is being treated by a psychiatrist named Dr. Allen, although he continues to act like a child. She asks him why he assaulted Mr. Dubrovicets, a roadside dry cleaner, to which Arthur cryptically responds that it's a top secret. The scene then shifts to Defender, the persona Arthur has taken on for a specific purpose. Meanwhile, a corrupt police officer named Chuck Dooney is seen harassing a girl called Kat in his car, taking undue advantage of her vulnerability. As Arthur patrols the city, he witnesses this and leaps into action but ends up in a trash can. He quickly climbs out and approaches the car, commanding Chuck to exit his vehicle. Chuck saunters out, mockingly questioning what sort of clown Arthur is. Arthur retaliates by attacking him with marbles, knocking Chuck down, and urges Kat to escape at once. Arthur then asks about Captain Industry, but Chuck, still mocking him, claims that he has no clue what Arthur is talking about. Infuriated, Arthur takes a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire and brutally confronts Chuck. After subduing him, Arthur heads to a local diner for a meal. Shortly after, a police officer arrives at the diner, learning through his radio that Officer Chuck has been savagely attacked by a tall man in black tights with silver detailing, which perfectly fits Arthur's description, prompting the officer to detain him. Constable Mike brings him to the station and informs Captain Roger about the peculiar situation, stating that Arthur believes he is a superhero and refers to himself as Defender. Officer Roger enters the interrogation room and inquires why Arthur assaulted his officer. To this, Arthur responds that when a person in uniform breaks the law, they are just as guilty as any criminal. Intrigued, Roger departs the interrogation room. He instructs Constable Mike to let him go with his marbles and other belongings. Arthur gets back into his superhero outfit and departs. Throughout the day, he remains in his workshop, and once night falls, he begins patrolling the city to fight crime as a superhero. He even has an armored truck of his own. Meanwhile, in another part of town, a group of thugs is harassing a young man. Just then, Arthur shows up and challenges the thugs to take on someone their own size. Officer Chuck Dooney instantly recognizes him as the man who assaulted him a few nights prior. However, Arthur insists that they let the young man go. Chuck, with a sneer, queries, "Who scripts your lines?" Arthur responds, he writes them himself. He then displays a small jar filled with a swarm of furious wasps. Moments later, he shatters the jar on the ground and flees. Arthur hurries back to his truck while the thugs pursue him. Out of nowhere, he produces a handful of marbles and starts throwing them at the thugs. Soon after, he begins swinging his bat at them. Unfortunately, his strategy backfires, and he ends up getting brutally beaten, all while Kate observes from a distance. After the thugs have thoroughly defeated Defender, they walk away, leaving Arthur sore and injured. Suddenly, memories from his past start flooding back, showing a young Arthur asleep in his bed. His mother gently approaches him and wakes him up. Faye tells Arthur she is going away for a bit to earn some money and promises to return soon, assuring him that she will be watching over him from the moon. The scene then shifts back to the present, where Kate is caring for him. She helps him into his truck and drives him home. Kate inquires about the place they're in. Arthur, speaking with difficulty, says it's his secret work base. Once inside, Kate scolds him for messing up her life the other day. Arthur explains he was only trying to help her that night. Kate urges him to try some drugs. Arthur remarks, "That's really bad." Kate then asks if his mother told him that. Arthur shares that his mother passed away long ago, and her name was Faye. He asks Kate to leave. Kate contends that it's too dangerous outside and plans to wait until things settle down. Nearby, she spots a framed picture of Arthur and his mother. Later at work, Arthur's best friend Paul Carter inquires about his bruised face, and Arthur claims he tripped down the stairs last night. Kate questions Arthur about what D stands for. He responds that it stands for Defender. Kate corrects him, pointing out that it's spelled Defender with an E before the R, not an O. This frustrates Arthur, who tells her not to teach him. Arthur reveals that he is on the hunt for a man named Captain Industry, the mastermind behind the city's crimes. Kate intervenes, clarifying that it's not Captain Industry, but rather a man named Radovan Kristic. She explains that Radovan has been responsible for numerous murders. When Arthur asks how she knows so much about him, Kate admits she has been involved with him. Radovan is involved in importing girls, drugs, and slaves from Moldova and exporting them to other countries. Arthur begs her to help him reach Radovan. Kate warns him that he's a Serbian militia member, making it difficult to approach him due to his intimidating bodyguards. Later, at night, Kat lies next to Arthur in bed, and he inquires about her true name. Kate reveals, Katerina Dubrovicets. When Arthur asks her what her strengths are, Katerina mentions that she used to excel in English, getting A+ during her school years. Arthur then remarks that she could have been a successful writer like Lois Lane by now. As darkness descends, Arthur and Katerina set out in his truck to patrol the city. She informs him that if he wants to find Captain Industry, he should talk to Officer Chuck Dooney, the man who defeated him the other night. When Arthur asks for Dooney's location, she tells him he can find him at the clubhouse. Later, Arthur heads back to his warehouse to prepare for his meeting with Chuck Dooney. In the meantime, it seems that Katerina and Arthur are developing a connection. Later that night, Arthur spots Chuck outside the clubhouse and discreetly throws a handful of marbles at him using a catapult. He knocks Dooney unconscious and takes him back to his base. While torturing Dooney with lime juice, Arthur demands to know where he can find Captain Industry. Dooney maintains that he knows nothing about Captain Industry, insisting that no one by that name exists in town, and suggests that Arthur should see a doctor because he is mentally unstable. Arthur mentions that Captain Industry resides near the plains, close to an unpleasant smell. He somehow coerces Dooney into revealing Captain Industry's address, which leads him to Radovan's house. Wearing some strange gear, Defender finds Radovan enjoying the company of some girls inside. Arthur returns to his warehouse and informs Katrina that what he saw was Captain Industry, who is quite overweight. Later that evening, Arthur follows Radovan to an upscale hotel. Radovan informs his partners that their shipment of weapons and girls will arrive in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Arthur is documenting this with a shotgun microphone, but as usual, he botches up and attracts the mafia's attention. He narrowly escapes the building and hides in a truck, avoiding the corrupt officer Chuck Dooney. Dooney enters the building, receiving orders from Radovan to kill Arthur immediately. Arthur goes to the police station to tell Captain Roger that he has recordings proving Radovan is a criminal with the help of Officer Chuck Dooney. Sadly, neither do they appear in the video footage. Officer Roger informs Arthur that the tape does not substantiate his accusations. As Paul enters the warehouse, he unexpectedly spots Katrina and is taken aback. He goes inside to confront Arthur about it, questioning what he is doing in the warehouse. Arthur responds that he has nowhere else to stay. Paul then asks about the woman he just saw leaving the warehouse, referring to her as a hooker. Arthur explodes with anger, insisting she is not a hooker but a friend. Paul calms him down and gives him a cell phone, telling him to reach out if anything happens. Out of nowhere, the scene shifts to present day, where Dr. Ellen questions Arthur about the reasons behind his attack on Mr. Dobrofiquitz. The scene cuts to the present day, and Dobrofiquitz is busy at his dry cleaning shop when Arthur and Katrina happen to pass by. Katrina stops briefly to glance at her father. Arthur inquires about the person. She reveals that it is her father. Later on at the warehouse, Katrina begins using drugs again, and Arthur learns that she has squandered all his money on them. He suggests that she should have purchased a typewriter like Lois Lane would have. Katrina brings him back to reality by reminding him that she isn't Lois Lane and he isn't Superman. Annoyed, Arthur leaves his base to confront Chuck Dooney on the street, stating he's in a foul mood. Acting childishly, Arthur starts tossing marbles at them. Meanwhile, one of the goons stabs him in the back, inflicting serious injury. Wayne, a henchman of Radovan, pulls out his gun to shoot Defender, but Arthur tells him that guns are meant for cowards and calls his best friend Paul, which infuriates Wayne as he fires several shots into Arthur before walking away. Shortly after, Paul and Katrina find Arthur unconscious on the street and hurry him to a nearby hospital. The doctor reassures them that although Arthur was shot multiple times with blank bullets, he is now out of danger. Katrina visits him in the ward and tells the unconscious Arthur that he is a superhero who gets beaten each time. She warns him against messing with hardcore criminals like Captain Industry, saying that it's better suited for the police. If he seeks trouble, he should take it up with her father, Mr. Dobrofiquitz, who has a history of bothering kids, including her. She decides it's time to cut ties with him. As Katrina walks away, Arthur stirs awake. Radovan receives a secret call from his informant, who informs him that Arthur has survived the shooting and that Wayne is an undercover officer watching him. Without a moment's hesitation, Radovan kills Officer Wayne and then tells Blake the room number where Arthur is recovering, instructing him to go and finish the job. Blake disguises himself as a nurse and enters Arthur's room at the hospital while Paul is preoccupied with the vending machine. Inside, Blake removes the sheet only to find a mop under the sheet instead of Arthur. Meanwhile, Arthur confronts Mr. Dobrofiquitz at his shop, attacking him for harassing Katrina. Arthur explains to Ellen that his goal was to make Mr. Dobrofiquitz feel remorse for his actions towards Katrina. When Dr. Allen inquires why Arthur has always wanted to capture Captain Industry, Arthur discloses that Captain Industry is responsible for his mother's death by giving her drugs. He believes that as long as Captain Industry is at large, other mothers remain at risk. Subsequently, Arthur Poppington finds himself on trial. Judge Wilson asks him to explain why he assaulted Mr. Dobrofiquitz and disposed of him in a garbage can, to which Arthur offers a ridiculous response, stating that Dobrofiquitz wanted to go into the garbage and he just helped him. Paul suddenly interrupts, asserting to Judge Wilson that Arthur works for him and has been under his supervision for 5 years but has a notable issue. He is somewhat mentally unstable. Paul describes Arthur's belief that he is a superhero, despite the reality being otherwise, mentioning his costume as Defender, complete with a large D on his chest and a cape. Judge Wilson determines that a comprehensive psychological evaluation for Arthur is necessary prior to proceeding with the trial. Soon, news of a vigilante superhero cleansing the city of crime spreads rapidly, leading to varying opinions about Arthur in the community. Some praise his alter ego Defender for taking a stand against crime. Meanwhile, the young man previously saved by Defender creates a mural in his honor. Dr. Allen hands over Arthur's report to Judge Wilson, highlighting that Arthur struggles with depression, delusions, an inability to foresee consequences, and a significant lack of common sense among other issues. Wilson concludes that letting Arthur go would not be viable. However, Dr. Allen argues against this, emphasizing Arthur's lifelong ostracization and that Defender is simply an escape for him. She insists that deep down he is just an ordinary man deserving of coexistence with others and urges Judge Wilson to find a way to avoid incarceration for him. Judge Wilson calls for Paul and Arthur and tells Arthur that Paul Carter has agreed to be his guarantor and custodian. From this day onwards, he will be living with Carter and his family. In addition, he is prohibited from donning the guise of the Defender. Arthur is agitated, causing a guard to shock him with a taser. Arthur starts living a normal life at his construction site. At that point of time, a car pulls up and Radovan's henchman gives him a letter. Arthur opens the letter and finds Katerina's picture as a captive. On the swing, while Paul asks Arthur if he still remembers the day he saved his son Jack, he was just a regular guy doing something remarkable. He is a superhero from within, so he doesn't need any costume. Whatever he has been doing is already exceptional. Afterward, Paul quietly leaves. Despite the encouraging words from Paul, Arthur looks up at the sun and calls himself Defender. In a secret place, Dooney has kept Katerina captive. He puts his gun and an apple on the shelf and begins to remove his clothes to have fun with Katerina. Katerina asks him to untie her first so that she can fix her hair. Lustful Dooney falls for her words and Katerina seizes the chance to grab his gun. She shoots him in the balls and runs away. She bumps into Arthur, who tells her that he was coming to rescue her. She tells him she shot Dooney in the balls. Arthur takes her to the warehouse and removes his plaster. Katerina warns him, saying that Captain Industry and his men will have guns while he hasn't any superpower. Arthur says guns can't hurt him because he is a superhero. Katerina tries to stop him using a gun to save his life, but delusional Arthur asks her to pull the trigger, claiming that the bullet will bounce off. Seeing Arthur's obstinacy, Katerina backs down and forces him to carry the gun with him for the mission. Arthur comes to the police station and informs Captain Roger that a shipment of girls and guns is arriving. Captain Industry will be there with Sergeant Dooney. In his fire brigade truck, Arthur arrives at Radovan's place. Arthur throws a flare light out of the truck, but it sadly falls near him, prompting him to get out of the truck in no time. Suddenly, the truck stops, and marvels in huge numbers start falling from it, leaving Radovan and his men puzzled. They open fire on the truck, causing the swarm of angry bees to break free. Arthur confronts Radovan, but Radovan shoots him without hesitation. Meanwhile, Katrina arrives at the place, witnessing the killing of the Defender. Speaking barely, Arthur tells Radovan that he had killed his mother, and her name was Faye. Arthur tries to fight back, but Radovan shoots him multiple times, almost killing him. Before the police arrive, Radovan flees. Katrina rushes to check on Arthur, only to find him barely speaking. Before dying, Arthur tells Katrina not to do drugs, and wants her to make him promise that she will become a great writer like Lois Lane, and get a good job. Tears streaming down her face, Katrina promises him, "I will do a good job, and you won't die." Before taking his last breath, Arthur expresses his feelings for Katrina, saying he loves her. To express their condolences for their superhero, the townspeople place a wreath under the mural. Later, corrupt officer Chuck Dooney is arrested, and Serbian mob boss Radovan extradited. Katrina has started a new job as a writer as per Arthur's last wish.